Now, in what ways are soft skill important in engaging stakeholders?
Well, you've got to use all of those magical skills, making sure that you're clearly communicating, that when there seems to be some difficulty, that you're able to have a clear and concise conversation. You manage your emotions. You're also being able to think creatively so that when you are sitting down at the table with your partners and your stakeholders, you're being able to have an open dialogue to creatively think and process and to use some critical thinking skills.
Welcome to Podcast Wise Perspectives Next Generation. Today, we are diving into a conversation that sits at the critical intersection of human potential and the rapidly evolving world of technology. If you are a new entry level employee in IT, AI, or cybersecurity, you've likely spent years honing your technical hard skills. But as the industry moves faster every day, there is a different set of tools that often determines who gets hired, who gets promoted, and who leads: soft skills. To help us navigate this, I am thrilled to welcome a powerhouse in leadership and organizational strategy. Joining us today is Dr. Joan M. Jackson. Dr. Jackson is an educational change management consultant and risk strategist with over 3 decades of leadership experience across K-12 and higher education. She holds a Ph.D. in educational leadership and is a certified Prosci Change Management Practitioner. From serving as an assistant dean to spearheading high-impact STEM programs for underserved communities, she has spent her career building sustainable systems and aligning complex goals with equitable outcomes. Today, we're going to discuss how those human-centric skills like adaptability, emotional intelligence, and effective communication are the secret weapons for anyone looking to break into and thrive in the tech sector. All right, let's get started. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, Joan.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
And it's a beautiful day outside, a little chilly, but that's what it's supposed to be this time of year, right?
Yeah. All right. So let's jump right into it. So tell me, what is a soft skill and why is it so important?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me today. A soft skill is something that you're really born with, like being able to be a communicator, emotional intelligence, and managing your social skills and being able to work with people. But we're born with them, but as we grow older, we kind of refine those skills, right? So either we learn to manage our emotions or we don't, depending on how our lives or and our work experiences have been. So as we get older, the thing that I would say really makes it most important as we get move on through developing our soft skills is how we practice those skills. So for example, many of us have been in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and those kinds of activities allow us to hone and grow our soft skills with leadership and communication and creative thinking if we're doing projects. And so as we move into the workforce, we take those skills from scouts and we
Mhm.
transfer them to the work field. So we already know how to manage people. We already learn how to cultivate some emotional intelligence and how to manage our emotions and working with communicating clearly to people. So that's the importance of a soft skill. You move from something that you're born with to something that you can hone and grow and develop into a life skill for
Now, in what ways are soft skill important in engaging stakeholders?
well, you've got to use all of those magical skills, making sure that you're clearly communicating, that when there seems to be some difficulty, that you're able to have a clear and concise conversation. You manage your emotions. You're also being able to think creatively so that when you are sitting down at the table with your partners and your stakeholders, you're being able to have an open dialogue to creatively think and process and to use some critical thinking skills, being able to be a leader, forging that command of the audience, so to speak. So while you're doing those things with your partners, you're also sharing decision making ideas and being able to create those ideas to have a win win situation with whatever kind of partnership you're developing.
Now, what ways are feedback loops used in stakeholder engagement?
Feedback loops are super critical in the sense that it's a constant so that, you and I are having a dialogue right now. So by
Hmm.
the time we ask each other questions, we clarify for meaning, and we're developing and honing and applying those skills in creating that loop so that there is clarity. So if I don't understand, I'm going to ask you, hey, can you explain it to me? And then you're going to then respond back to me. So it's that cyclical part of the conversation that makes the feedback loop so critical, even with your partnerships. If there's something that we're doing as a partnership and I'm not really quite sure what my role is or what I'm supposed to do, we're having that dialogue to make sure that that continuum of understanding is in place so that we can get the work done in a very positive and clear flow of making sure that we meet the goal of whatever our decision has been.
Okay. Now, what is the single most crucial soft skill for a new entry level employee in a fast paced field like IT, AI, or cybersecurity?
Well, I'm going to tell you from my point of view, I think when you talk about AI and technology skills, I think one of the things that one needs to keep in mind is that you have to learn to be adaptable. What
Mhm.
works today doesn't work tomorrow.
Right.
And what you think you know today has changed since yesterday.
Yeah.
So being able to have some flexibility and being able to be adaptable, I think is the key strategy that most people need to have going into an entry level field. And also, I think again, going back to the idea of a feedback loop, every business is different. How an AI tool is used in business A may not be the same way as business C. So
Right.
making sure that you ask that kind of questions and keep those dialogues open so that people can learn and grow. But as I tell people all the time, you can't you can't get an answer if you don't ask the question. So until you start asking questions and being open to hearing and communicating and listening to what people are saying to you and how to apply tools and strategies is also the second most critical piece of going into a new environment.
Okay. Now, how does a new hire effectively demonstrate critical thinking and problem solving when they lack deep technical experience?
From my experience, I would say if you are a new hire and you're not really clear on what the technical skills are, it's about upskilling.
Okay.
Being able to admit, first of all, you gotta admit that you don't know, or you don't really clearly understand how to apply the strategy. So, being able to have that conversation, finding a mentor, working within the constructs of the new business, you can ask for some professional development, go out and seek those strategies and those skills on your own. There's tons of places you can go, Coursera, LinkedIn, to get the strategies and the skills that you need to be successful in that workplace. Just being open to the idea of being able to admittedly say, I don't know how to do it. And I
Mhm.
think that's where new entries need to think about, really owning up to what their skills levels are in a new environment.
So would you think that, in your opinion, mentorship, getting a mentor to help in that technical area would help, or would that mentorship be more for the soft skill part?
No, I think a mentor is highly critical and very supporting. I mean, I would hope that in any business, if you have a new person who's coming in, that should be an automatic, really. If I'm new to the environment, new to the workforce, this is my first big girl job, it would be wise because it's a new place, it's a new experience, the culture's different. And then having that set of expectation coming in new, you're really not sure what it is you're supposed to be doing in this place. Having a mentor guides that person through company policy, company practices, being a shoulder to have a conversation with, to understand what the guidelines are. Mentorship goes a little bit beyond just the technical skills. It goes along with creating personal development, personal relationships, knowing how to navigate the political environment in which your company operates, from the structure to the policies to who you sit next to in the board meeting. Having that kind of person who already knows those skills and can train that person or teach that person how to be successful in that workforce is very important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wish that in my first IT job, at least, that I had somebody there to guide me through, uh, especially in a technical sense, right?
Mhm,
Not the soft skill. I was okay in the soft skill part, but the technical sense, though, I would say that Google did help me a lot in
mhm,
for the
mhm,
technical stuff. I was able
mhm,
to go and, research, um, and find my answers. I
mhm.
I did have, my husband as a mentor in a technical sense at home, but it's different, right? It's not the same relationship when you have somebody at home versus somebody at work where they can be like, oh, this is how we actually do it versus in the broader sense of how this is how you do it, right? So,
And I think you and I have spoken before about the idea of soft skills in the tech field.
mhm.
So, based on your experiences, how do you think, or what do you think techies really don't have those soft skills capabilities or those skills? What do you think um, is the reason? Because I think that was something we talked about before.
So I think the reason is more so personalities.
Mm,
The personalities, we are very, technical, right? So we're like boom, boom, boom is very structure.
mm,
Whereas people in general are more of a, how do you say it? A lot of curves, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of emotions and stuff like that. Whereas technical is facts. ABC,
mhm,
this is how you do it. So I think is personalities are a little different rather than, let's say in creative. In the creative world, you are taking your imaginations with drawing something, having the
mhm,
graphic design part and stuff like that. But also for me, my background started as a graphic designer. So I do have the creative and then I became technical with it. So in my career, I was able to transition my graphic design, soft skills, creativity into the technical world. So it was a lot easier for me to apply soft skills in the technical world.
Do you find, I know in education we have a lot of people who feel that they are, imposters, that imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, I really don't belong here. Do you find that that also creeps into the tech world?
Oh yeah, definitely.
In what
Definitely.
way? In what way?
In what way? I would say for me personally, I had it, right? Just to be vulnerable here, I had imposter syndrome because I found what I was doing too easy,
Mm,
right? Like it came to me like, oh yeah, this is easy, right? But
mm,
then if I talk to other people that were not in the technical world, they're like, this is hard. And I'm like, okay, I'm
mm,
not like, where am I supposed to be?
mm,
And then I learned I'm good at what I do and they're good at what they do. So I become more accepting of who I was or who I am in that sense. And
mm,
that, yeah, it did come easy to me because I understood the technology, right? And sometimes even in some other aspects of the technology world, it was hard, right? It was harder to grasp the concept. So I know that in break fix IT, I was like, oh, this is easy. I could just follow the instructions and how to fix it. Then when I Roblox, computers don't always listen, right? So computers don't always listen. So even if you follow the instructions, they don't always come to what you expected it to be, or the at the end of the day is not fixed. You're like, why? Right. So then
mhm,
in the creative mind, then you're like trying to fix it to have to be able to fix the problems. So it's less A B C D is more like A B C Z, maybe X,
mhm.
maybe I, maybe N, you don't know because then you have to troubleshoot. So that
Yes.
was the fun part of it. But the imposter syndrome, uh, yeah, once I learned that everybody had their own skill set, then I didn't have it as much. It really like it.
So in your conversation just right there, so thinking about knowing your strengths and weaknesses, how would you guide a new employee in a workforce to understand how to take initiative and how to demonstrate what they know and to take ownership of what they know.
Wow. First, I think having that conversation with the manager, with leadership or their managers to say, I have this skill set. I'm really good at that, especially during the interview
Mhm.
session, right? Like, I have that skill set that I'm really good at and I would like to hone it more. Is there any projects that I can do to showcase my skill set? And hopefully the manager would be like, yeah, like we have this project that we can work on, or maybe down the line we can work on this. Funny enough, one of when I started in break fix, when I started at this one place, I started off as just helping deploying laptops to the users. And then slowly but surely, I don't remember if I showcased some programming skills or that I had said something about, I know a little bit of programming, maybe we can do this in how to automate the process. And they're like, okay. So then they kept that in the back of their minds. But then
Mhm.
later on, maybe 3 months down the line, I had to go as my contract was ending, right? So they're like, so do you want to come on board full time? And we can add on this programming aspect of things to your responsibilities. Because that would be a big add on for us if you could help the econ team with this programming. I was like, sure. Like I was in school for computer security, network and security, and there was some programming in it. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I will do something. And it's also I think is willingness to do
Mm.
other things, right? Willingness to try something. If yeah, sure, you're not good at it, but if you don't shoot your shot, you'll never get it,
And I
right?
think that's also something that, especially in the education field, I mean, we always talk about trying, right?
Mhm.
At least put yourself out there. But the one thing I can truly say that I think has been beneficial for me in my career is that I've always had a desire. I've always had that curious nature about me
Mhm.
in the sense that I saw something, I didn't understand it, I didn't get it. So I took that initiative as you've talked about, you take that initiative to learn and to grow and to contribute. That's how I decided to do my Prosci Change Management certification
Mhm.
because I really saw, everything is in flux, everything changes. What happens today doesn't happen tomorrow, doesn't happen next week. And watching people freak out about change really got me interested in thinking, why do people freak out about change? Change is good. That's always been my motto. Change is beautiful.
Mhm.
So understanding how change happens is important. And so in the AI tech world, I really embrace that because with the work that I do as a former community school person, I was really glad to be in an environment where we had two two partners who were in the AI world.
Mhm.
And so I was probably like, yes, bring it on. Or
Yes.
I was really happy, and luckily, our partner and I had a really good relationship. So we brought something new, just very much like you were talking about, being able to bring something new to the table and not feel like you were the imposter, but you came with that integrity and that integral idea of that can do approach.
Mhm.
And I think that's something even now as we move into this morphing of how much AI and tech should be into the classroom. I think it's the same way now in health fields and in legal fields and everything else is that
Yep.
people are trying to figure out where does this piece of technology fit and getting that change under control so that everybody's not, have hair on fire kind of experience. So, and no one's having heart attacks. So it's kind of important to really hone that imposter syndrome, but own it, but not really embrace it into the sense that we all have those skills. I mean, no matter what that soft skill is, the emotional intelligence, the listening, the critical thinking, the curiosity, whatever, the leadership, we have those skills. It's how we manage the the situation is what really drives the outcome in
Yeah.
the long run.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, how can an entry level employee use emotional intelligence to navigate the team dynamics and manage conflict constructively, especially in high pressure situations? Like
Well,
their
the
internet went out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the first thing you're not gonna do is go blow up someone's, building, right? So,
Mhm.
it's like, hopefully, you're gonna be mature about it and sit down and have a conversation. I think one of the things that we have really gotten away with these days is, very much like what we're doing right now, even though we're distance-wise, we're having a face-to-face conversation. And
Mhm.
I think that is an art that we have really gotten away from, and
Yeah,
having open dialogue and really understanding that, that is a sign of emotional intelligence. Having a civil discourse is something that we have somehow moved away from in the workforce. If there is, conflict, we'll shoot up an email and, in a minute. But somehow, if you like me, somehow what you really mean doesn't get translated, and then it blows up even bigger than what it really should be. So
mhm,
I think, as an employee, being able to use that emotional intelligence of honing, as I tell you, breathe before you type, think, let it sit 24 hours and do those kinds of things, being able to navigate the dynamics, know who's on your team, know the people that you're working with. You don't need to know their personal business, but just getting down to understanding who are they as a person, how do they like to work? They're better in the morning than they are in the afternoon. That's who I am. I'm a morning person, really. So, really getting to know your team and how your team operates, what's their strengths, what's their weakness, how you fit into the team manages and keeps that conflict at bay. And if there is a conflict, you should be able to change that dynamic and work within those constructs of each of your members of your team. And that should be able to manage that urgency and rush with a
mhm.
situation that may come up.
Yeah, and I think also being prepared,
Yes.
right? Being prepared,
Yes.
knowing what to do. But that's comes really also with leadership, right? In the
Yes.
leadership aspects of things where, being prepared and knowing what to do would help in high
Mhm.
pressure situations. Because if, let's say that, we got hacked, right? The company got hacked and I'm a SOC analyst, for example, and I had no idea who to contact. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
going to run around with my head cut off, right? Like a
Yeah.
chicken the head cut off and be like, "Oh my god, what am I supposed to do? I don't know who to call. What's their phone number?" If I knew who to call, but I don't know the number, having that documented would be really crucial.
Well, here's the other thing I found though. You might have the leadership ability, but your leader might not. So
Right.
your leader's the one running around like the chicken. And so sometimes I have found that that puts you as a under person sometimes in bad light, because now that leader feels like you've stepped over bounds, or
Mm,
you've exposed something that wasn't apparent before. And so to quell those kinds of differences tends to be problematic in some cases for in some industries.
mhm.
I don't know what it's like in the tech industry, but I do know that, that can happen. And then those relationships get burned. And then what do you do with it as a team? How do you quash that animosity, or that again, go back to that imposter syndrome? What is it that makes that team now have to figure out what their dysfunction really is, or who really is the leader?
Right.
And that tends to be something, especially as a new employee, when you're sitting there and you're seeing the sparks fly and you
Yeah.
realize you're caught in the middle. That's an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah. The politics of things,
Yes, yes.
loss of trust, right? Like you lose trust in the leadership. You're like, that could have been like, I could have done this. Why can't you do it? You're in leadership. How'd you get here? Right?
Mhm,
I don't
mhm.
trust this situation. Should I be working here? Like all those kind of questions, right? It kind of
And then
sucks.
and then it's about fit. It's like, okay, I have these skills, I have this ability, and do I really fit here?
Mhm.
And that's a question that would definitely come to mind. So I think going back to the idea of being a new employee in a fast-paced world, I mean, how does one use his or her soft skills at that moment? I mean, and as you've been in this environment for a long time, what kind of soft skills would you think that someone would need to do to solve this kind of fast-paced world with these kinds of challenges in an entry-level kind of position?
Patience. I would say patience. I'm very patient, and I think that's a well, for me, from my perspective, I think that's a skill that has gone away with, that people are not, because it is so fast paced. The society as a whole is so fast paced. Everything is instantly
Uh-huh.
Instagram and Amazon 2 day, or even like few hours later shipping, Uber Eats and all of these things like right away. I believe patience is a virtue, right? Like it has gone down. And I believe that, to answer your questions, patience would be that soft skill that would be needed in high pressure situations.
With a team, I'm going to assume that with these new teams that are coming out, there are a lot of presentations and board meetings and client meetings.
Mhm.
So, when you're working in an environment as a new employee or new hire in these environments, uh, what might be a key difference between communicating effectively in a technical document versus a presentation to an executive or to a client? What would be the key differences, and what kinds of skills do I need to bring with making sure I'm communicating effectively if I'm in that environment?
To communicate, I would say communicate as though they don't know the technical term, right? So you can say, hey, we need switches because, they will help segment the network. Boardroom has no idea what you're talking about, right? If they're not technical, they have no idea. But you can say, hey, we need a device that will
Mm,
help segment, let's say, the legal from finance, right? So that their devices are not connected and they don't talk to each other. We need a device to be the bouncer, right? Are you allowed to come into our network or not? So let's pretend that the company is a club. So is this individual allowed to be in this club? Yes or no? No. Okay. Denied. Access denied. Bye. Right?
mhm,
Okay. Well, this other individual, employee ABC. Well, employee ABC should be able to access the lounge and the bar and the lobby. Okay. Well, employee ABC, you can only go here. You can only go to the lounge, the lobby, and the bar. That's it. Okay. So you get the bracelet, go in. So those are like layman's term, knowing how to talk to the boardroom in business terms and in layman's terms would be key skills to have to be able to translate, basically.
okay. And so with that translation, hopefully we're talking, as you say, jargon free,
Mhm.
so that it's very plain, simple, easy vocabulary. What about taking initiative, showing themselves as being able to navigate both the corporate side and the lay side? How does one navigate that space?
Good question. So I would say taking initiative, there's a time and place. There's a time and place to take initiative, right? Don't take initiative during a presentation that somebody's doing, right? But if it comes to the point where there's something that happened there's a mistake that happened, or they cannot present, show up, be there, right?
Mhm.
Show up, be where you're supposed to be, and yeah, basically show up, right? Just don't hide. Be visible, I would say.
Looking at the workforce, the way we work
Mhm,
nowadays, we're doing this virtually.
mhm.
Remotely. However, there's some places where that's not an option anymore.
Right.
So, what adjustments do you think a new hire would need to make to be successful to ensure that they're communicating and being um, making an impact, not only within the workforce, but also within their teams in showing up and being engaged in the workforce uh, arena?
So in the remote side, I would say, being available, right? Like I know that you're remote and you want to do some housework, or you just want to do watch your shows or whatever while you're working, but be present and be available when somebody needs you. But don't be like, oh well, like give me 15 minutes, right? No, be
Yeah.
available. Yeah. What do you think?
As a teacher, I was around during COVID.
Hmm.
So I agree with you. You've got that time where you need to be available and have your time dedicated and set for the task at hand. You go the meetings are still going to run, need to be there and have your say and your voice heard. I think that work is different now that, thanks to COVID, it's different, but it's a bad thing since to COVID, it's different. But I think when we get a chance to look at being present, being engaged, being mindful of your time and time management, as you said, yeah, I want to watch my program, but there's a thing on my recorder that says record. And so if you want to watch it, you can record it, right? So there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. Being present, being mindful, being able to be in the moment of what it is that you're there to do and how you're supposed to do the work is most important. Contributing. I mean, that's the basic bottom line. You are contributing to the team
Hmm.
and the work that has to be done that's at hand. So beyond being hired, we've been talking about new hires, but let's talk about folks who are already in the workforce, right? So there's a term I learned today that I don't really know, so I want you to explain it to me. But
Okay.
then I want to understand, what is that? How does that work? For example, the term I learned is RAG, RAG. What is a RAG?
Uh,
It has to do with how one, from what I can gather, it has to, and there's a reason why I'm asking this question.
okay.
So the question is, from what I can gather, a RAG is like when you ask an AI to do a task and it gives you the data and the information, but I don't know what the RAG is an acronym for. And so, but then the thing that I'm looking at now is because now there's so many tools, especially in education, and in partnership development and looking at short courses and using AI to develop lesson plans and using AI to do student learning and tutoring and all of those things. I'm wondering, how does one translate what they think they know from doing, like, we had to learn how to do internet searches when the internet came, right? So
Right.
how do we translate that same process of learning how to take a skill that we have to apply it to AI and technology? I mean, what should we be doing, especially as I'm gonna call myself a dinosaur. So what are these, people like me who I'm learning right along with everybody else how to do these things? How do we maneuver the environment? I mean, what do we need to do to be able to utilize these tools and use them effectively and to ask the right prompts? I mean, what is it that I need to do to get up to speed besides upskill
Wow.
myself?
Okay. That's a good question because I'm learning as along you, all of these things also. But I would say adaptability, right?
Mhm.
Adapting, learning from mistakes, learning from others, right? Being open to learn from others, right? Taking courses,
Mhm.
even. I know Google has like a AI prompting course that you can take for free. But I think learning one, the desire to learn is the first thing I would say, right? The desire to learn, adaptability, willingness to learn either from mistakes or from others and from courses would be the path to go, I would say.
So piggybacking on that, that's basically a growth mindset. You're learning that I call it the and not the and yet
Hmm.
piece. It's like I haven't learned it yet.
Right, right.
So so how do we move people, just not entry level, but people like you and me who've been in the world? How do we get people to that yet? I mean, how do we get people to see that growth mindset removes the stagnation in the work?
Wow. I think that is like a course in itself, but a ongoing thing, right? To be a forever student of the world, like a forever learner. And I mean, I learn different things on different days. As they say, one day I could be learning how to prompt, what kind of prompting should I put in AI to get the desired outcome, or learning a new technique to cook a dish, right?
Mm,
So on the weekends, we have a different country theme, like a theme country for 3 meals. And I learn different dishes, different recipes every week, at least three, that I learn. And then I adapt it to our tastes, right? To make sure that it's what we like to eat. And also, this is where I use AI the most,
mhm,
is trying to find the recipes and trying to find to help me with the grocery lists and the serving sizes and stuff like that. I've been using AI to help me with that so that it cuts down on the time for research and for data gathering. So I've learned to better prompt out of this exercise, better prompt, and to also learn different cuisines. I've learned to adapt the cuisines to the palates for my husband, my son, and I, and then also portion control, right? So
mhm.
making like knowing which dish can be a leftover or not.
Wow.
Just that exercise alone, I've learned a lot of things, but I was also able to adapt, right, in how I cook, also utilizing different tools, cooking tools that I've never used before. So I was like, okay, this is cool, right? Or even
Yeah.
adapt to like, I don't have this tool to use something else to mimic it.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah, like you, I do the same thing. I have these ingredients, what can I cook?
right.
And it really, I have come to do the same thing with, business. It's like, okay, this is what I wanna talk about, how can I make, the clarity piece and how will it make sense to anybody but me and the tone and the jargon. So I've been able to use a lot of tools that I've just recently started using it about a year ago. Like most of people, I thought it was gonna be this monster that was gonna chew me up and spit me out. But I really learned to have embraced it.
Hmm.
And like you, it saves time, it saves the brain energy, um, but it also gives you the flexibility, especially once you learn how to put those prompts in or to type the prompts correctly to get what you need it to do. It really causes you to think about how to structure your prompts. It's like I could say, hey, I have, hamburger, onions, and cheese. What can I make? And it's going to spit me out five things. But if I say, hey, I have hamburger, onions, and cheese, but I don't want pizza, then, you set your parameters. And so it then forces you to think how what is and isn't something that you want as an answer or a response. So that's one thing I have really grown to appreciate about the tool. And I can only imagine that for somebody who is maybe versed in AI or in tech using these tools, what it might be when there's like, 500 different tools. Like now there's Claude and ChatGPT and Kibble and all these other tools that are out there, really knowing how to use, when to use which tool and how to use which tool. I mean, and I guess as a new practitioner for me in the world of AI, I would assume that that is something that's could be company specific, task specific. How does one make that decision and determination? I mean, that is something that always baffles me when I see these kinds of things. How do you know when to use what? How do you make that decision?
Yeah. So I would say that I am very limited in my tool set for AI. I probably use three,
Mm,
right? And I don't use it as extensively as one might think, right? So yes, I do use Gemini for P, use Canva for my graphic design, but I don't use the AI as much, right?
mhm.
So on the Riverside platform, the podcast platform, I use the AI features on it to help edit, but that's about it really that I can think of, right? Like that's specifically that says AI. It might
Uh,
have something else out there that I use that is, AI, but yeah, oh, well, in Gmail, I use the functionality for, like, you know, rewrite this for a certain tone, right? I
yeah,
use that I use that a lot, but,
yeah,
that's really about it. Like, other than that, ChatGPT, I did not use. I use Gemini instead. So the choices, I would say I've seen a lot on LinkedIn where there's like charts that would tell you, you can use this for that, and whatnot. So I that's my suggestion is to look at charts.
and I like you, I think there was one this morning, that was posted. Like you, I only use a few. I mean, I've just gotten to the point where I just now have decided to venture to see what Copilot is doing.
Mm.
I have used ChatGPT, but I really don't like it as much. I am in love with Perplexity.
Okay.
I do a lot of research, and so it cuts down on the time that I can go find it will find the resources for me. I don't have to go hunt for them. And then usually, if it's something that I really don't like, I can always say, "Hey, can you find me something else?" And
Mhm.
so that cuts down on the research piece. The writing part I haven't quite mastered. I don't really use Claude at all, and I have been told to use it, and I'm really just not there yet. I don't find Perplexity does a good job in rewriting, or maybe it does. I have found that um, I get a better answer with Copilot for that. And some days I still get crazy sentences that I don't know where they're coming from, but it just depends on what it is how I use AI, and and I use Canva and some of the other work that I do, but I would just really would like to see how to take the technology and make it a little bit more user friendly. I still find as a new user, and I guess as an entry level person in a field, for me, I find that even though I can learn, I find that sometimes I get lost in the weeds because there's so much. And so and I can only imagine that somebody who is in the field would find the same kind of experience, that there's just so much that it's hard to siphon out what really is the thing that's the most important. And I guess that's the other thing. How do you determine what's important and what's not important? Especially in a workforce, and how to apply the new technology to the workforce. That's key. I mean, I don't like, how do you determine what's good and what's not?
Yeah. That's a good question because it depends on what outcomes you want to have, right? And also, like, technology wise is what is offered to you in a workplace, right? Because some places are like no AI, none whatsoever, right? Like in the financial industry, some banks are like no AI unless is our AI. So
Mm,
then you can't use Claude, you can't use ChatGPT, you can't use Gemini. You have to use the bank's AI. So then by default, that's the product that you have to use, right? The tool that you have is the bank's AI because they're using internal data.
mm,
Right. So, and then also the guardrails, security wise, it will be within the bank's network. So it can't go out and divulge information outside
mhm,
of the
mhm,
network. So it's all like, it depends on security, depends on, use cases, what all of those things are for. But as a small business owner, you can decide for yourself which one it is, and you can also ask a friend, call a friend, or you can call
call
me.
you. I'll call you.
Yeah. Then you do your research and, you figure it out what the use case you want it for. And then if it's something, so let's say that you're a bigger organization where you have a call center, right?
Mhm,
The call center they can have a product where uh, AI is integrated in that calling system so that they can be like the representative can be like, I need this battle card where the customer is calling and is complaining about something and I don't know how to handle this. So they can be like, while they're talking to the customer, they can type in the issue and then the battle card will show up. And at the same time, the system can call the manager if the manager is requested. So that's like a AI functionality that's integrated in the system itself. So that's like another AI tool that not a lot of people know about, but it's there, right? It's available. There's another one where it helps with patient engagement,
Mm.
right? So it's an AI tool where they can make sure that you show up, right? Making follow-up calls or follow-up texts or reminders. So those are not, that would help the receptionist at the front desk, all of that remedial task. So that's also another AI tool that can be utilized in clinics.
So I'm going to switch gears to ask you this question. So we've talked about kind of various industries, or you just given us some examples of industries using AI. And
Mhm.
I know that you're an entrepreneur yourself. So how do you use, or how beneficial is AI or just tech in general to you and your work in working with other clients or working with other people or developing your partnerships? How do you infuse the technology in that regard?
So technology, I mean, our suite is pretty small, right? So our tech stack is pretty small. We use HubSpot and, Gmail and stuff like that, but that's really about it. But I think the human side in it, where we have conversations like this, right, helps a lot in the business side. Where learning about other people's businesses and how they function and being able to utilize AI note takers,
Mm,
right, has
yes.
has helped a lot where I don't have to jot down the note and don't understand my writing. That's another story, right? Like I'm like writing something and then I have no idea what I wrote and come back later and you're like, what is this? Having the AI recorder on has helped tremendously because I can go back and read the transcript or read the summary of the transcript, uh, and then also be able to take that transcript and see what are the action items that needs to be done
Yes.
and do the action items and then also, hey, based on this conversation, what's the next steps? What can I do to help them better secure their infrastructure, right? So what did we talk about? And also in partnerships, where do we leave off? What's the next thing that I need to do? What do they owe me? What do I owe them? All of those things are there. So I don't have to like rack my brain like, okay, what happened? Right?
Yeah.
Because and I can pay attention,
Mhm.
right? So I think in that technology, having the AI recorder, having Gemini help with summaries, copy, especially copy, because I'm not like the writer that's like, oh yeah, like I can spit it out right away, everything. No, I'm not. I admit it. I am not the writer. I am more of creative type person. Me, Canva, and I'll sit in Canva for days, a type person. So
So I hear you talking about a lot of soft skills, the
mhm.
listening, the creativity, the communications piece, the leadership piece. Um, all soft skills, emotional intelligence piece, right? So out of all of those skills that we are born with, that we hone and develop, which ones do you think are the most critical
Oh,
in the IT, AI, cyber world? Which ones do you think are ones that really stand out to help a new person be successful in the field? You can say all of them, but I'm sure that there are a few that are really critical. I mean, that are really most necessary to be successful in the field. And which ones do you think that would be?
listening
Okay. Why?
and communicating. Listening, because if you go off task, some things can be really critical, right? If you're doing something that is what you're not supposed to be because you didn't listen, I would say that's something that's critical. Communicating is another one, especially in community. So for me, from my perspective, and when I was doing break fix IT work, communicating in the non-jargon way was a soft skill that was really appreciated because the users were like, "Okay, I understand what you mean," right? If I were to talk to them techie wise, they were like, "Huh? What are you talking about?"
Mhm.
So having that soft skill of being able to translate what happened in non-technical words, they really appreciated that. And also in the sales or even advising side of things is a lot of the people that I talk to are not necessarily tech people. So if you talk to them all tech, they're like, I still don't understand. Like, why do I care? Why do I care that you're trying to advise me on a new firewall? I really don't care about the firewall. I care about the business side of what a firewall does, right? So I think the ability to translate is a key thing where translating text to English is a skill that's very needed. Like even when I did policies and stuff like that in this cybersecurity policies, talking to somebody that worked in Splunk that was always like, oh yeah, I was doing the variables here and this, and whatnot. And then trying to translate that to the business analyst was something that I had to do. Right. So it was like, that's a job. It's to be
Mm.
able to translate is a job because
It
like
is.
some people are the the tech person will always talk tech, and then the business analyst will talk business analyst talk, right? So then trying to have those 2 talk at the same time to each other, they were like, nothing will get done, essentially. So being able to translate is another soft skill I say would be critical in the tech world if you wanna especially if you wanna talk to other people outside your department.
Then how does one grow? How would you address being able to um prioritize the growth? Where you and I have been in the business for many years and doing what we do.
Mhm,
But if I'm coming in new, how do you tell someone to hone and grow? Well, I can think of honing and growing as being able to sit back and watch, to learn, to grow, develop, to sharpen your saw, as Stephen Covey says, right?
mhm.
But in the AI world and the tech world, I'd assume just very much like those of us in the ed world, we're still learning this new technology. So how would you ask someone who is new into the AI, IT, cyber world to hone and grow?
One day at a time.
Mm,
One day at a time. I mean, that's the thing is that you can, especially in today's world where you can learn in 15 minutes something, you can watch a video per day, right? You can, while you're on a bus, you're taking a bus or the metro, you can listen to audiobooks, you can listen to YouTube, Coursera, all those different courses that are on video, but also on audio. You can listen to podcasts like this one. You can listen to different other podcasts that are out there that can help. There's also, other YouTube creators that are specialized in technology. So you can listen to them talk or watch their videos, depending, during dead time, learn something. What could be anything.
I think that for me, the one thing I've learned in this new period of transition and even trying to learn a new skill that I am truly not computer savvy, but being willing, as you said earlier, being adaptable, having that desire to learn,
Mhm.
um, and to admit that I don't know it, but I'm going to learn it and be dedicated to that and to learning. Learning is something that you've got to do every day. If you don't learn something new or one little new piece of information, then I just find that your brain is mush. You've got to be able to, yeah, you just got to be able to take something new in because that only adds to your toolbox that you have in your brain, right?
Mhm.
That's a new skill you take with you. That's a new concept that you can infuse into your life to better yourself, better your world. And for me, being able to just really be adaptable. I've got to evolve with the times just like everybody else. And I think for some people, that's scary
Yeah.
and it is a challenge. But if you embrace it with generosity and forgiveness. You
Mhm.
know, we're all not going to learn at the same time. And as you say, we're all going to make mistakes. And just know you're human. You're human. You're going to, you may not get it today, but tomorrow you'll get it tomorrow
Right.
or maybe the next day. Or as I just said earlier, you haven't learned it yet, but you will. But having that mentality that, what happens today is something good. It's something that's going to benefit you in the long run. And you're going to take that skill and perfect it to meet whatever it is you need to do within not only your personal life, but also your professional life. And
Yeah.
I think if we take anything away from today's conversation is that, having those soft skills that are innate to each of us and being able to hone them, develop them, and utilize them in both personal and workforce lives makes us more humane in the work that we do. It makes us more confident in completing the work that we do. And those soft skills allow us to be more productive in the work that we do.
Yep.
So that's my take.
All right. Let me stop this one.